Hey, and welcome to my channel. I'm Alex, and today I'm going to walk you through the readability problem from PSET6 at CS50, which is for Python. So you have probably already solved the same problem in C in PSET 2, or I believe it's 2. But today we're going to rewrite it in Python, and that will be a great opportunity for you to discover the beauty of this language and how easier it is compared to C in such operations. So let's just quickly go through the requirements. So we have this formula you probably already remember. Now, in case you don't, you can just go to let me see if that's week 2 to be more accurate. Problem set 2. So yes, we have readability here. You can take a look at it if you don't remember it. But now I'm going to go back to week 6. So we have this formula. Sorry, let me open it. We have this formula that we're going to use to calculate what grade a certain text is for, depending on the number of letters, sentences, and words. So, of course, we can use getString to ask the user for input. We consider a letter, every lowercase character from A to Z, or any uppercase character from A to Z. Now, we consider every sequence of characters separated by spaces as a word. And then any occurrence of a period, exclamation point, or question mark indicates the end of a sentence. So it's important to remember that because we'll need this information when we start writing code. So we have grade X, where X is the grade level, which is computed by the formula, and we want to round it to the nearest integer. Then, if the result is 16 or higher, we just want to print grade 16 plus, or if it's less than 1, we want to print before grade 1. Okay, so let's start writing some code. Now first, we'll need to import getString from the CS50 library. So from CS50, import getString. And I'm also going to import reg. Now, I know this may be unfamiliar to you. I'm going to explain it later. I just want to include it now in order not to forget it later. But basically, we are going to use this in order to use regex, which stands for a regular expression. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this has been explained during the lecture that David led, but in case it wasn't, I'm just going to give you a quick explanation here. I'm not going to go through the entire regular expression syntax, only the expressions we go through today. Okay, first I'm going to define my main function. Now, inside of the main function, I'm just going to take the user input. So first I want to ask the user to enter text, right? So I'm going to say text equals getString, which comes from the CS50 library, and I can write a prompt. So I'm just going to say text colon. I think it was the same here. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to have. And then I'm going to take the user's answer and save it inside of the variable text. So I'm just going to come here and print text. And of course, I have to call the function because if I don't call it, it's just defined here, but it's not called anywhere. So I'm just going to say main like that. This is a function call. Okay, so I've saved that, and I'm going to say Python readability py. Okay, so I'm going to enter something random, and it just prints the same thing. But that's what we expected. So now we want to have a couple of other functions which are going to calculate the number of letters, the number of words and sentences, and then we're also going to have one function for calculating the result of this formula here, this one. Okay, so let's just start by counting the letters. I'm going to keep my main function at the top, even though there's no predefined convention, but I just like to have it on top, and now I'm going to create the other ones. So I'm going to say def for define, and I'm going to call it gets letters count, right? Because that's what the purpose of this function is. And I'm going to pass in the text. Now the text is here, so I'm just going to call this function and pass it inside of get letters count, because we needed access to the text in order to count the letters inside of it. Okay, so now I'm going to use regex, but don't worry, I'm going to explain it. Let me first write it. So I'm going to find all the letters. So letters equals, now I'm going to say re dot. Now there are lots of methods here. The one I'm going to use is find O, which is going to find all of the matches. And I'm going to write a pattern that you may not understand. Don't worry, I'm going to explain it in a bit. I just want to have it here. Okay. So let's stop here. First, the purpose of regex is to give you the opportunity to find something like substrings inside of a string, or in this case, we want to find all of the letters. So find all of the letters inside of the text. So this is why I'm using the find O method. And now this thing here, what it means is that, like, first we have the square brackets, and inside of it we have A to Z capitalized, uppercase, and then A to Z lowercase. Now what this means is that we're going to try to find any letter. So the square brackets indicate that it could be anything out of these. We don't want to find all of these, we just want one of these. So we are giving something like a choice here from A, so starts from uppercase A to uppercase Z. So it's automatically going to take into consideration all of the other letters that fall between these two. And then we also want lowercase a to lowercase e. So we want any letter, which is between uppercase A and uppercase E, or lowercase a and lowercase e is considered a match. And then we want to find all of the matches within the text. So if we come to this example, for instance, this is going to fall in this range, so it's considered a match, this is a match, this is a match, but the exclamation mark is not a match, because that's not a letter, right? It's just a character. So that's what I'm using. I'm not going to print it now, or I can use it to print. Okay, so I'm going to I'm not going to print them, but that's how it works. And I'm just going to come here and write letters count, because this is going to return all the letters themselves, like C, O, N, etc. But now we only care about the count, right? So letters count equals, and I'm going to say the length of letters, which is just a list. So I have a list of different letters on this line 11, and then on line 12, I'm using the len method in order to obtain the length or the number of letters within this list. Okay, and now I can just return letters count. That's what this function is for. We don't need to do any other operations inside of this one. We can just call it here inside of our main function. Now, if you're a beginner, functions may be a bit confusing to you, but don't worry. As you continue solving problems, you'll find that they're not a complicated concept. They're just something new to you, maybe. So I'm going to say, I'm going to define a new variable. So I'm going to call it letters count. It's going to be the same. Equals, and I'm going to call this function. So this is a separate function, but I'm going to call it. I'm going to say get letters count, and I'm going to pass in the current text that I have. Oh, sorry, text. So let's quickly go through. Let's first test it actually to make sure that it works. I'm going to say just orange or something. Doesn't really matter. It actually, so that I printed text. Sorry, I wanted to print letter count or letters count maybe. Yeah, that was my mistake. So we have text. Okay, so we have 6 letters. Perfect, right? Okay, good. So let's go over this again. First, we ask the user to write a text, and then we take it and save it inside of this text variable. Afterwards, we call this function. So whenever we call this function, we pass in the text, and we come here on line 12. So we have the text, and we're saying, find all the letters inside of this text. Then take the length of them, so take the number of letters, and return it. So whatever's returned here is going to be stored inside of this variable on line 7. Now this doesn't have too much, so this could be just letters if you want. Even though I believe letters count is more descriptive, but you can call it letters and it's still going to work. Let me test this. Okay, this works. Alright, so we're pretty much done with that one. Now let's move on to the function which is going to count the number of words. This one is probably the easiest one. I know, actually I believe all of them are easy, but for this one we're not going to use regex. We're only going to use split, so let me show you how we can implement this. So get words count. Split should help us. I'm not 100% sure, but if split doesn't work, we can use regex. Okay, so now you want to get a words count. What we could do is we could just use split and split by a space. And split is automatically going to return all of the... It's automatically going to return all of the words. So we can say words is going to equal. So now we want to split the text by a space in order to get all of the words. So text dot split by a space. So this is automatically going to break it down into multiple words. And let me just come here and print it. Words. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go back to main and do the same. So I'm going to say words or words count. It doesn't really matter. Equals get words count, and I pass in the text. So again, I'm just calling another function, and when I call this function, I'm going to get in here and print the words. Okay, let's do that. Like that, it should say, okay. So now you see that it took the entire text, which is a string, and it split it by space. So now I have 4 separate words. We have a list of 4 words, which works perfectly fine. And now we can just say words count is going to equal the length of the words list. So we take this list and we say how many words are there inside of it. So it should be 4. Okay, and we want to return the words count. Okay. Let's test it again. Let's come here to the main function and just say print words. Like that. I'm going to write a sequence. Or let's not write. Okay, there we go. We have 5 words inside of this text. Okay, that was it. Now the next function is the one for counting the sentences. So I come here and I say define a function called get sentences count. I'm going to pass in the text again. Don't forget to do that, because if you don't pass it, these functions, or the one we're currently creating, will not have access to the text we've taken from the user. So that's why we have to pass it to every function. And now, how do we count the sentences? Well, if we go back to the documentation, the specification, we can notice that it's written that, let me see, any occurrence of a period, exclamation point, or question mark indicates the end of a sentence. So we can use regex again in a similar way we did in the get letters count function, and we can say so I'm just going to say matches. I'm just going to say matches equals, and now I'm going to use dot find all. So I want to find all the matches within the text. And now what matches do I want to find? The first possibility, so I'm using the square brackets again because I don't necessarily want to like have all of them, but I'm looking for one of them every time. So it could be an exclamation mark, it could be a full stop, or it could be a question mark. Like the sequence doesn't matter. The order of those doesn't matter. And now I want to look for these inside of my text. So now you may ask, why did I use dashes up here, like A-C, and I'm not using them here? Well, on line 25, I'm just setting 3 possibilities, which are going to count as matches. But on line 13, I'm saying get all of the letters within this range, from A to Z. So that's what the dash means. You could also say 0-9, which is going to take off the number of the digits, essentially. So that's why I'm not using a dash here, because I don't want anything between 2 signs, but I'm just kind of hard coding those 3 ones. Okay, so once we have the matches, we can say sentences count equals the length of the matches. So again, this is going to find all of the exclamation marks, full stops, and question marks, and we know that every sentence ends with one of these. So the number of matches here is going to be the same as the number of sentences. So we can just say take the length of the matches and return it. So return sentences count. Now you don't have to use a variable here. You could directly do this. But I'm just doing it for the beginners here. Okay. And now let's test it. Let's go back to main. And I'm going to say sentences equals get sentences count, and I'm going to pass in the text again, and I can come here and print sentences. I'm going to run the function again. I'm going to take this one. Okay, so it says 4, we have 1 sentence here, second one, today is your day, third one, and fourth one, so it works fine. Alright, we're almost done with the problem. We've successfully obtained the number of letters, words, and sentences, and now the only thing we have to do, we're going to define a new function which is going to calculate the results of the formula. So I'm going to say define calculate grade. I'm not sure if we have to create an entirely new function for that, so we may just calculate it inside of our main function, but I'm just going to keep it more clean and have it here. So calculate grade. Now we are going to pass 3 parameters. Let me just take a look at that. So we have this formula. We have L. I forgot what this stands for. Oh, L is the average number of letters. Then we have S, which is the average number of sentences, and where is... So the thing is that we want to have those, like S is the average number of sentences per 100 words in text. That's why we need the words. And we're going to have L, W, and S. So the letters, the words, and the sentences, the number of letters, words, and sentences. And first we want to calculate a grade. So grade equals, now let's copy the formula. But we are going to modify it a bit. So if we come back here, we can modify this a bit. So we want to see how many letters there are. So first we're going to take the words. And then we want to see how many letters are there per word. So divided by words count. Now, this is not exactly what they expect, because they want letters per 100 words, sentences per 100 words. Now, we're currently calculating letters per 1 word and sentences per 1 word, but that's fine. So words count, like that. And now, let me just format it a bit better, like that. I'm going to remove this print. And now inside of here, I'm going to take L. Now this is letters per word. But since we care about letters per 100 words, we're just going to multiply it by 100. And it's the same for S. So S currently represents the number of sentences per one word, but we want to know the number of sentences per 100 words, so we just multiply by 100. I'm going to use brackets here. So that's the only modification we have to do. It should be rounded to the nearest integer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use round, so round like that. So calculate the index and just round it to the nearest integer, so that's going to be the grade, right? And now we just want to print this grade. So I'm going to say, if the grade, so there were a couple of conditions, right? If it's less than 1, then it should be before grade 1. If it is between 1 and 15, we should just print the corresponding number. And if it's 16 or more, we just want to print grade 16 plus. So I'm going to take the string and I'm going to say if the grade is less than 1, I want to print before grade 1. Else if, let's first take a look at the one which is about 16 plus. So if it's greater than or equal to 16, I want to print 16 plus. And if it doesn't fall in either of these, this means that it's between 1 and 16, right? So in this case I can say else, just print, and I'm going to use a formatted string because I need to print grade and then like the number representation for this grade. So grade, and I'm going to use the syntax with these curly brackets to insert the grade. So this is going to be the number. It could be 3, it could be 5, etc. So I think that's pretty much it. We can test it now, but before that we have to actually call this function, calculate grade, inside of our main function, right? So after I have taken the number of words, letters, and sentences, I can say, I can just call it like that. And I'm going to pass words, letters. Now actually it was, let me see the order. So we have letters, words, sentences. Letters, words, sentences. Like that. So when we call this function, we're going to pass these in. And we're going to come here, calculate the grades, and then print the corresponding message. All right, let's now test this. There we go. Oh, we have some kind of a words count is not defined. Line 9 in main. So let's go back to main. Oh yeah, because we called this words, not words count. Yeah. Okay, so that's just words. So let's test it again, like that. I'm going to enter the sentence, and it says grade 3. Okay, perfect. Now let's take this example. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. Interesting text here. It should say before grade 1. Sorry, I didn't call. Oh, come on. Okay, before grade 1. And I'm actually not going to test any of the others. I'm just going to run check 50. It's automatically going to like run off the tests. Alright, so now I can see that all the tests have passed, which means that our program works as expected. So that was everything for this video. Yeah, we can actually run style 50, even though you can do that as well. Okay, it says that it looks good, so I'm not going to bother with the comments. So that was everything. I hope my video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to enter my Discord server. There's a link in the description, and you can ask me questions there. So that was everything for today, and I'm going to see you in the next tutorial.